process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable ongoing reality.
Well, hello and good evening. We usually do this real talk with the Cummings on YouTube, but today YouTube is having a little bit of problem. We tried going through our StreamYard application or app and it didn't work. Then we tried going directly to the application with YouTube and it's having problems. So here we are on Facebook.
And we just wanted to share a few things. I had found some articles that really kind of like interested me because I read it to you this morning. And
interesting articles, yes.
Yeah, some really interesting articles about family ties. Remember that show?
Family Ties? Yes, I do. I definitely do. The format of our show on YouTube, usually we go into some health tips. And who knows, maybe if this starts to take off here on Facebook, we can do it live on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then maybe once or twice a week and then continue some on YouTube. But as we said earlier, for those that are just tuning in, we normally do this show, Real Talk with the Cummings, on YouTube, but it's not working today. YouTube is kind of having issues. So we're using Facebook as our platform for today. So you found some really interesting articles. And on the health tip section of our show, today we're going to be talking about sleep. And sleep is something, I don't know about you guys, but I need my 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's like
you think?
Oh gosh, yeah. 8 hours is something, and it's like an automatic for me. I just kind of
you hit the bed.
I hit the bed, I'm gone, and I don't wake up till my body says it's time to get up. 8 hours is important. And in this article that you found, it actually explains why.
Yeah, and when you wake up, if you have to go to the bathroom, you can just go right back to bed.
Oh, yeah, I just poof, back in, resume, where was I dreaming, what's the next step, and I'm out.
And for me, if it's early enough, I don't have a problem going back to bed. But if it's like 5, 6, then it's almost like, uh-oh, I'm awake. What do I do now? Unless I'm like really, really bone tired.
Mm-hmm.
But the importance of sleep is underestimated by lots of people. By me, I know that for sure. Very important.
I equate it to a cell phone or any device that requires battery operation and rechargeable. Your brain requires recharging. And somehow, some way, the science, the research have equated it to anywhere between 6 to 8 hours. The more, obviously, the better. The older you are, I tend to think the more you need it. Although there are older people that say that they need less sleep as they get older. I haven't found that with me.
Yeah. Well, I think different people have different circadian rhythms, I think. But for the most part, I think 8 hours is probably kind of like the best case scenario. If I could sleep 8 hours,
mm-hmm.
I would like that. But we find ourselves, we go to bed like around 11 midnight or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, get a good 7. So it is what it is. And the importance of a good, regimented sleeping pattern is unheralded by many.
Oh gosh, and it's so important, extremely important. It's to me, if I don't get sleep, I can't function. It's like I didn't get a full charge, and the features in my body just don't want to work. That's how it is. But it's been that way pretty much all my life.
Right.
So nothing's
Yeah, it's
changed.
important to really make sure that you see that getting that sleep is like really just resetting the body. Like you said, the batteries have to be recharged, and we are electric, right? We are
Every
made
part
out
our
of
body. Yeah.
yeah, we're powered up, and we need to reset ourselves, just like your phone needs to set in the charger and reboot, reset itself and recharge. We do as well.
Yeah, I mean, you notice a lot of people that are sleep deprived. What do they do? The first thing they go and they reach for a cup of coffee or an energy drink, and that just gives you this buzz. But people don't realize that adding this extra curriculum to your body to try to get that awake state kills your adrenal system. And then before you know it, it is very harmful. In fact, the other day, one of the girls in the gym who had taken some sort of one of those energy drinks, she started having problems where they had to call paramedics. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think that if you don't get your 8 hours of sleep that you could kind of ride it by drinking a cup of coffee or by drinking an energy drink. It's not going to really help you. Your body needs the real thing, and that is sleep.
I know that my friends in the past, working in television and entertainment and stuff, people just were going from job to job, state to state,
Mm-hmm.
city to city, hotel to hotel, venue to venue. And they wouldn't think anything about, I needed to take like 2 Red Bulls,
Mm-hmm.
to get me over the hump or, to make me stay awake and stuff like that. And they don't see how dangerous these substances are.
Extremely dangerous and not good for your adrenal glands whatsoever. It's not meant for that kind of thing. And people, they ride the midnight oil, they burn the candles at both ends, and it'll catch up with you. Literally. It literally will. So, according to this article, sleep is your superpower, and I will tend to agree, written by Lyles Ulrich Verdiber. Okay, and it says, what if I told you that you have the power to lower your chances of getting in a car accident? Improve your ability to fight or getting sick.
Was that a personal reference?
Well, you didn't get any sleep the night that you were heading over to me and didn't head over to me. I actually got to meet you in the ICU ward.
Yes, you did.
That should be a clue there. Improve your ability to fight off getting sick and decrease your risk factors of, get this, Alzheimer's. Better yet, what if I told you that you don't have to pay for the superpower and it's something you already like to do?
Well, what is this superpower? Everybody wants to know. The $1 million question.
What is it?
No, it's not snoring. It's sleep. Now, before you turn away and think, okay, great. I know. I'll get my 8 hours of sleep a night. I don't need to know anymore. Stick with us. This TED Talk this is where it came from. We're sharing with you today will give you a greater appreciation for your nightly ritual and have you rethinking your priorities when it comes to how sleep factors into your life.
Well, in my family, the person that wrote this article, loudly proclaiming how little sleep you get because you're getting more work done is often seen as a badge of honor. And we know people like that, right? I'll sleep when I'm dead, they say, is a common comment. When I was in college, the same was true too. Great numbers of students seemed to be staying up just to say they had. I remember pulling those all-nighters. You had to sit there
Finals
and study.
And studying for all that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Why do we do this to ourselves? Well, if the sleep science you've heard hasn't convinced you that you need to start prioritizing your sleep, well, this TED Talk hopefully will.
Does sleep really matter? Really? Well, the quick answer is, you guessed it, yes. Yes, it does. Adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, teenagers 8 to 10 hours, and 6 to 12 years old need 6 to 12 years old need 10 to 13 hours. Now, how many of us can say we're getting in those required hours? Or our kids are? Most kids don't.
Well, in the United States, 35.3% of adults report that they are sleeping less than 7 hours a night. Alarmingly, people who report not getting enough sleep are more likely to report they have one or more of 10 chronic health problems like heart attack,
Mhm.
diabetes, depression, and cancer.
So next time you get some sort of diagnosis, don't try to blame anyone else. I truly believe that you bring things on yourself, That's how it goes. Well, we know too that sleep is critical to learning. And yet, 2/3 of our US high school students get less than 8 hours of sleep on school nights.
People, it is time to get some sleep. So, what are the benefits of sleep? Well, this amazing story from sleep scientist Matt Walker runs us through some fascinating sleep science and makes an excellent case for making sleep our newest priority. Oh, and this is something that we can actually link to you guys because it's literally a video that the article refers to called Sleep is Your Superpower. And it will give you a little bit more info as you follow along afterwards. You can go back to this.
Yes. So if you haven't poked around at all at TED Talks has to offer, make sure
That's a commercial.
That's a commercial for
Yeah.
a TED Talk. Okay, well, sleep
All
up
right.
then. We have the science that tells us a lack of sleep increases your risk of getting cancer, suppresses the power of your immune system, shuts down your brain's ability to retain and process memories, and ages your body by as much as 10 years. So that whole concept of beauty sleep, they weren't kidding. That's why probably I stay so young looking, because I like to sleep.
It's time to rethink the way we sleep. We need to start seeing it as a priority,
Mm-hmm.
not as something that gets thrown by the wayside to Netflix binging or all-nighters. As Matt Walker points out, sleep, unfortunately, is not an optional lifestyle luxury. Sleep is a non-negotiable biological necessity.
So what can we do to improve our sleep? Well, first prioritize it. However you need to do it. Recently, I started prioritizing my bedtime and realized that I was staying up late because I found myself turning on the TV or YouTube, as many of us do, right? Around the time I went to bed. An hour later, sometimes two, I would finally turn it off. If you're looking to improve your habits before bed, take a step back and assess where you're spending your time. Maybe replace TV with reading. And there's a reason behind that, because there's lights in the television, lights in your phone. And if you've got your phone right there in bed, and that's the main focus, that could be messing with your circadian rhythm.
Once you've assessed your pre-bed habits, set some time constraints. As Matt Walker mentioned, regularity is king when it comes to quantity and quality of sleep. Pick a time to go to bed and wake up that you can keep consistent. Next, if you can, cool down your room. 65 degrees Fahrenheit is an optimal temperature for you to cool down and get quality sleep.
I find that when I get too hot, even when it's cold, because we have the heaters, it's very difficult to sleep. It's always better to sleep in a cooler temperature than it is hot. I've read this before as well. Well, these two factors in place, you can now start to work backwards. Try reducing your caffeine and or alcohol consumption. Avoid blue light from your phone before bed. Don't lay down for a long afternoon nap. And if you find yourself staring at the ceiling before going to bed, get up, go somewhere else, and do something different. You want to make sure your brain associates your bed with a place of sleep.
We can start to reframe our sleep culture. We have the knowledge, we have the tools, and now we can start to make the habit. So whether you're compelled to reprioritize sleep for its health benefits, or to keep your brain healthy, or to make sure you're getting the best out of your learning, sleep up and know that you are now a part of a community of people who will cheer you on when you finally get your 8 hours. Stay beautiful and keep laughing.
It's essential. It's essential. And like I said, you're looking at things that a lot of people drink caffeine later in the day, or they think too much. And that's one of the things, whenever I can't sleep, it's because I have something on my mind that I'm ruminating in. And so when you ruminate right in your bedtime, your brain just goes on, like it's like thinking, or, being on social media, like first thing when, one gets up, or like you said, when you get up to go to the bathroom and it's hard for you, like if it's 5 o'clock, You know, and
Yeah.
it's because, you know, it's like, I know I'm not going to check the time. I know I'm not going to worry what time I'm just going to like, go
No,
back
that's
to
easy
sleep.
to do at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a no-brainer. But
Right.
once it gets around 5:30, 5:30, 6 o'clock
Mhm.
and stuff, I mean, it's like I'm up. I might as well prepare myself a cup of coffee already because I'm already up. Mentally, I'm up. So
anyway, this is a
Yeah.
great article, and I think I linked it to
oh yeah,
the actual, did I?
you did.
Yeah, I saw it
probably saw
earlier. But I don't know.
I haven't reset this or anything.
Let's see here. Yeah, it's right here. There
Yeah.
it is. So for you guys who want to,
And the TED Talk. That's
TED
the one
Talk,
that
yeah.
really is telling much more. Emma Starr, she says, Mark and Lynna, I've been catching up on your streams lately, daily. I always miss so much. You make me feel at home just listening away. Watch party, great idea.
well, actually, we couldn't get on YouTube today. Something's going on with the YouTube live stream, so we figure out let's use Facebook, and maybe we'll make this a habit. You know, maybe doing once a week here on Facebook, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another option for us to be able to get our message across and everything. If if it works, we just keep on doing it.
Yeah.
And then we could download it, put it on YouTube eventually.
Yeah. Or we could, I used to have a program that you could simultaneously do others, but I don't know if I took it out or not. So anyway,
this is the really important reason that I wanted to share something with you guys tonight. It's because this article really connected with me. It really resonated with me because a lot of times we find ourselves wanting to please others so much that we end up sacrificing our own individuality for years in the process. And sometimes we try to make up and try to fix things that we think that we broke and stuff, and it still doesn't work because it's not good enough for those that want things a certain way.
Exactly. And I find the same thing. You know, it's like you go through your entire life trying to please your mother, your father, your siblings, your friends, and people that you think that you need to be a certain way in order to get their acceptance, their love. Especially if you've had to really fight all of your life for that kind of attention, that kind of love. And it never works because in the end, it's never enough. And you always have to continue to give more and more. And in the end, it just doesn't work. So this particular article, it's called How to Escape Your Family to Save Yourself. And let's see here. I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger. Oh, no, that's too big. It's only takes up.
I think you can go here and then click on Zoom. No, on the plus sign. And then and then widen out. And then you could click Zoom again if you want it to be.
Can you read that?
I can read.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Imagine being born into a family of survivalists with extreme religious beliefs. Your bipolar father is convinced the end of days is approaching and prepares by stockpiling canned peaches, weapons, and fuel.
Your father distrusts traditional doctors and the medical establishment as wicked servants of the socialist government. Your family relies on your mother's herbalism and divine healing for all your medical needs.
You have no birth certificate and never attended school, as your father believes all you need is the Bible. Your older brother becomes sadistic and violent, often dragging you by the hair and forcing your face into the toilet to purge your wickedness.
Isolated from mainstream society, all you have are the beauty of the Idaho mountains and kindness of your grandmother. The only glimmer of hope is when another brother leaves the family to go to college. He returns periodically and tells you that there's a world out there, and it will look a lot different once your father is no longer whispering his view of it in your ear.
Or yelling.
Or yelling, yes.
So you teach yourself mathematics, science, and grammar. You take the ACT and miraculously get accepted into Brigham Young University. But there's a problem. Your father disapproves and says your place is back home, working with the family. In fact, He suggests that the devil has a hold of you. If you don't return, you will be lost to the family forever.
That's really sad because a lot of people are disowned, are told, get out, you are dead to us, just because you're not doing what they want you to do. And many in the LGBTQ community face this. I mean, recently there's been so many parents literally murdering their kids when they find out that they're gay. That is unacceptable.
Totally unacceptable.
So, hope lies in dreams. You love your family, despite their dysfunction, against their objections. You stay on in school and distinguish yourself academically. Despite economic hardship, a kindly professor helps you get a scholarship. You're encouraged to apply at the Harvard for advanced studies and then Cambridge University in England. Against all odds, you are accepted.
A quote says, "Hope lies in dreams, in imagination, and in the courage of those who dare to make dreams into reality." Jonas Salk. What would you do? The love and approval of your family weigh heavily on your mind and heart. All you have to do is walk away from your education and embrace your family's way of life.
My family was never really religious. My grandmother was a Jehovah's Witness, but I found myself in a situation very similar to this when I was accepted to one of the biggest production that El Paso had. It was called Viva El Paso, and I was not allowed to go because I needed to stay and work in the family's restaurant. I had made it out of tons of people. There are very minimal people that made it, and I was one of those.
Wow.
And they would not sign the approval that I was underage. So that hit home to me. It was like, wow,
And what was their excuse?
That I needed to stay to work in the family
So
restaurant.
they didn't think you were talented enough?
Oh, they knew I was
to do what you
talented, but
wanted?
they didn't want me to go.
They didn't see how big of an opportunity
They
it
didn't
was?
care. They didn't care.
Didn't care.
They didn't
Why
care.
didn't they care, do you think?
I don't know. I think it's because it's all about what they wanted.
Is it all about like what they wanted for you or what
No,
they wanted for themselves?
Yeah, what they wanted for themselves. And that's usually what happens a lot with parents. They think that we are the extension of them, and we have to sacrifice our life for them and do everything the way they want us to.
Well, making the decision harder, your family is no longer poor. Your mother miraculously healed your father after a terrible accident, and her celebrity as a healer and herb specialist has spread. The family created an online business for their herbs, tinctures, and oils, making them very wealthy.
You miss your family and worry if you travel to England for your education, you may never be able to come home again. Your parents even travel to the university to see you and encourage you to not continue with your education. Come home, they say. The guilt you feel leads to a mental breakdown, nearly costing you your education. What would you do?
What it means to self-create. Did you want?
No.
That's
I was just like,
Oh, yeah. Everything described above and more happened to the author Tara Westover. Her best-selling book, Educated, a Memoir, detailed all the hardships she endured. Despite the disapproval of her parents, she studied psychology, politics, philosophy, and history at Brigham Young University. For the first time in her life, she learned about the Holocaust and the Civil Rights Movement. That's a good
quote. Okay, there's a quote here that says, "The greater danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but in setting our aim too low and achieving our mark." Michael Angelo.
It's a good quote.
Yes. So imagine how hard it must have been to defy her dictatorial father. Her whole life and perception of this world had been defined by her father's teachings, as Westover wrote in her book.
Everything I had worked for, all my years of study, had been to purchase for myself this one privilege, to see and experience more truths than those given to me by my father, and to use those truths to construct my own mind. I had come to believe that the ability to evaluate many ideas, many histories, many points of view was at the heart of what it means to self-create.
Westover studied at Harvard and Cambridge, where she earned a PhD in history in 2014. The success of her memoir brought recognition and fame, but at a steep cost. She has been shunned by her family. We know that too well.
Westover experienced tremendous guilt for defying her father's wishes. Even though she knew the pursuit of education was a good thing, there was still guilt. She wrote in her memoir, "But vindication has no power over guilt. No amount of anger or rage directed at others can subdue it, because guilt is never about them. Guilt is the fear of one's own wretchedness. It has nothing to do with other people."
In the end, Westover learned to focus on what she needed instead of what her father demanded. She explained it this way: I shed my guilt when I accepted my decision on its own terms, without endlessly prosecuting old grievances, without weighing his sins against mine, without thinking of my father at all. I learned to accept my decision for my own sake, because of me, not because of him, because I needed it, not because he deserved it.
Oh, Emma Starr remarks and says, "Mark and Lynna, if you've never seen the movie Into the Wild, I think you will love it."
We did see it, and we definitely did love the movie very much. I actually watched it maybe like 3 times before I watched it together with you.
Oh yeah,
It was
it's
a great movie.
an amazing story. You know, the guy just defied his parents' wishes. You know, I think his dad worked for NASA or something and was like very well to do, and
Yeah.
they had their plans
For him, yes.
for him.
Yeah, and he needed to make his way. And don't want to spoil alert, but unfortunately, things didn't end up, the way he would have wanted to in
Right.
the end. But everyone has to sow their own oats, and they have to do what they have to do. And that means a divorce from your family, then so be it.
Don't be trapped by dogma. Tara Westover is not the only person to have defied the unfair expectations of loved ones in order to become her own person. We are 2 people right here before you that have done that very thing
Mhm.
to become who she was meant to be. And we echo those words.
Yeah.
There are many people who found the courage to pursue their dreams despite their parents' objections.
An article on mentalfloss.com notes that the singer Katy Perry was raised as an evangelical Christian. Her parents, both pastor, embraced a strict religious code of conduct. For example, things like co-ed dances were not allowed.
Despite Katy Perry's success, her mother has said, quote, "We strongly disagree with how she's been conducting herself," unquote. Her mother added, "And she knows how disappointed we are." Yet, despite this stinging disapproval, Katy Perry found the courage to follow her own dreams.
The actor and singer Chris Christopherson graduated with a master's degree in literature in 1960. According to a mentalfloss.com article, Christopherson was a Rhodes Scholar who studied at Oxford. He served in the Army and upon discharge was offered to teach at West Point. However, against his parents' wishes, Christopherson turned down the teaching offer and moved to Nashville to become a songwriter.
Christopherson's family disapproved, feeling that he denied himself a solid future. They disowned him. Christopherson dealt with the rejection of his parents by putting his pain into writing songs.
Yeah, it's let's see.
It's okay.
So your time is limited, so don't waste it living somewhere else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. And that's very important. This was
Yeah.
Steve Jobs who actually
Totally.
quoted this. You don't know what time you have here on earth. If you're going to live your life based on what other people think of you, if you're going to live your life based on what other people want of you, you're going to be wasting your time. And time is going to pass away, and you're going to live regretfully. And I know that both of us have, have felt
Done
the
that many
sting.
times.
And myself recently, my final attempt to create some sort of sense because all my life I've been told how much of a mess up, and that's the nice way of putting it, I am, because I didn't do things the way they wanted me to,
Right.
you know.
And those were some of the last words that were quoted to you
Mm-hmm.
in a comment, you know. And the word wasn't mess up.
No, that's what I
started
said.
with
That
an
was
F.
kind. Yeah, and that was kind.
So making a person, the bottom line is that your family is not you. They may be a part of you. They may have shaped aspects of your personality and outlook on life, but you are your own individual. No one has the rights to lay a claim on your life. You are who you are, and who you wish to become is up to you entirely.
You know, there are parents from the moment their child is born, they have plans. They're like, oh, you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be this, or you want you to be that. I want you to continue the family business, and things of that nature. But,
Mhm.
you know, they don't take into consideration that you are your own individual and you have your own dreams and you're entitled to live those dreams. And they don't have the right to become upset, or they don't have the right to guilt you. So perhaps the most important thing you can do for yourself is to obtain a good education. The pursuit of knowledge enriches the mind and deepens your understanding of the world, as Tara Westover wrote. And for those who do not want to get an education and you're a natural entrepreneur and you have gifts and talents, don't be shamed into going to school and getting a degree, because you may be meant for something totally different than the status quo. I mean, everybody nowadays has some sort of like degree. It used to be an associate in science, and it became a bachelor in science, and then we have the master, and everybody wants a PhD.
Mhm.
You know?
Well, the big key here is that, as she quotes, an education is not so much about making a living, like by finding some profession that you're going to study for to become this great doctor or surgeon or lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually about making a person. So taking steps to make who you are become a reality, you know.
Right.
So education is not just in the sense of school books and getting a degree.
Right.
How much of ourselves do we owe to our loved ones? Where do healthy parental expectations for their children end and unfair demands begin? No doubt, when we are young, we must rely on our parents for guidance and support.
You know, we didn't ask to be born either. So it's not like, you know, there are parents that try to like, well, we brought you to this world and we've given you this, that, and the other. It's
I
like,
sacrificed all this.
did I ask to be born? I mean, you guys decided to do whatever, and here I am. But
Mine were like, my mom was like, I sacrificed and had you go to Christian school all your life for you to do this to me? And it's like,
oh,
Mom, I never asked you
Yeah.
to do that for me. I always felt weird not going to public school.
Yeah.
It's like I would go to church,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like the odd person out because everybody else knew each other,
Mm-hmm.
but I was the good kid
Mm-hmm.
that went to the no racism here, but it was like the white kids school, you know, the uppity kids, you know, and stuff. And I was like, they couldn't relate to me,
Right.
you know. So yeah.
So in youth, we often lack the education, experiences, and wisdom to decide big life decisions. If we're lucky, we have wise parents to guide us to adulthood. But sometimes people aren't so lucky. Their parents may be misguided, mentally ill, or mean-spirited.
Or all three.
Or all three, right? What are we to do then?
What do we do then?
I know. It's not easy.
For Tara Westover, she turned to her grandmother, who encouraged her to get an education. Westover intuitively knew that her grandmother meant the best for her. Perhaps that's good measure for dealing with the demands of loved ones. Ask yourself if their guidance benefits themselves or you.
9 times out of 10 is themselves. Now, when you ask me about, so didn't they care about, no, they didn't. They cared about the restaurant, and they wanted somebody to man that restaurant, and if I left, they were losing an employee. So education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Malcolm X quoted that. Education is the key to personal growth. It needs not come from traditional schools and universities. There are many forms of education, from books and videos to technical schools and, most importantly, life experiences.
Education was a key to Tara Westover escaping her family to save herself. Of course, along the way, you have to be sure you're not buying into your own lies. Some young people defy well-meaning parents because they think they have all the answers when they don't. Again, education is the key to checking your own biases, false narratives, and self-lies.
All right, so the man who lies to himself and listens to his own lie comes to such a pass that he cannot distinguish the truth within himself, or within him, says Fyodor Dostoevsky or something like that. It's possible to save yourself and become the person you always wanted to be, whether it's family, a loved one, or friend who are holding you back. You have the power to direct your own future, so long as you don't lie to yourself with delusions of grandeur and seek real and meaningful education. You can pursue and achieve your dreams.
Many of us are blessed to have parents and families that support us in life. Of course, we're two that have not had that.
No.
Even when they disagree with our choices, they are still there for us. And I am so grateful for those parents that stick to their children, stick by their children's side,
Yeah,
no matter what.
very,
Very,
very important.
very important.
Yeah.
Sadly, some parents and families are not like this. They may be blinded by their own stringent beliefs, as mine was.
Perhaps.
They were victims of controlling or unsupportive parents themselves.
Try the best you can to find peace with your parents and loved ones. But if education and experience have shown you that they are wrong, you must chart your own course. You have a right to save yourself and pursue your dreams.
It may not be easy, but it is possible. Tara Westover did it. So did Katy Perry, Chris Christopherson, and countless others. Pursue the gift of a good education. Believe in yourself and become the person you always dreamed of being. Excellent. Yeah, this article really hit home because you and I have defied the expectations of our parents, and we've kind of like turned things around and inverted them for them, and they don't like that. They don't like what we've done. They don't like the fact that we have chose to march to the beat of our own drum beat.
Yeah.
They wanted us to march to their beat and to their drum beat.
Yeah, and it's, it's really sad because there's a lot of people that get affected when that takes place. It's not just the parents, but other family members that suffer the lack of the presence of one in their life, and you just got to do what you got to do. You just have to cut ties, and understand that toxic relationships are not going to change, because I think in our minds we keep thinking, well, maybe they'll outgrow the way they think, they will evolve somehow, some way, but years pass and nothing ever changes.
Well, what benefit is there for them to change? Because
it's true.
I mean, in regards to us, we have been living our lives separated from them for so long that their lives aren't affected either one way or the other if we're there or we're not. It's great when you can agree, and life is a lot more smooth with them at that point. But if they don't agree with us, what does it cost them other than a loss of reputation, right? Other than the inability to say, oh, look at my kid, and sharing a picture or sharing some, wonderful accomplishment that we may have been able to do or something, and bring them glory and, all that.
Well, we become their trophy, and when you can no longer showcase their trophy, then there's a problem, because it's like we then become their embarrassment, and they feel that we are the reflection of them. And I think that's what's happened in my in my circumstance, with my mother, that she became ashamed of who I was, and who I became. And it was like, just she couldn't deal with it, and it's pretty sad because they have to realize that we are our own individual. We have our own autonomy, and they should respect that our choices does not reflect them, and they can learn that, and maybe they can evolve and grow as a human being.
I wanted to add, though, as well, that there seems to be something that's very mysterious about everything, just as this year's been pretty mysterious and all the changes we've had to endure. I just feel like life sometimes really just throws you a curveball, and things that you thought aren't what they appear to be, and it really feels like, I look back at those memories. I look back at my childhood. I look back at, things that happened in prior relationships. I look back at all these things that I supposedly did in my past, my career, my, just journey in life. And it all just seems to be so like distant, like there's like a disconnection. Like, is that really mine? Is that really something that I did? Or is that something that I remember happened to me or happened to this body?
Right.
Because at this point in time, I feel so disconnected from the person who gave birth to me, from my only sibling, from, everything that's happened prior to you. I just feel totally disconnected from it. How do you explain that? Is that trauma that's speaking, or is it literally that, there may have been something supernatural that could have happened?
I don't know. I mean, trauma could actually create a disconnect where, I know for me, I choose to just like literally cut the umbilical cord. It's like, why continue to hurt myself, to continue to feel the pain, or to continue to live in that negativity all the time. So it's like it becomes a distant memory. It becomes it's like you choose it's like when you choose to leave a job and you have your resignation because you no longer wish to continue to take the abuse from the employer, or the working situations aren't good anymore. So you terminate, you write your resignation, and you go and you move on.
But it doesn't mean that, like in that situation, you do acknowledge that you did participate as an employee in that company, right?
Yeah.
But it just feels like this is so much more impactful in a holistic, like all-encompassing way, that it just kind of just like envelops everything about you. And you look at the memory, and then you look at your life, and then you see that is something that you remember, but you don't have a connection to it. Like, I don't know. It's
parallel
weird.
universe.
It's weird. It's really weird because you really feel like you've lived different lives. You feel like you haven't lived this life, that it was a separate life that lived that life in the past. I mean, you see certain things that take place as the years go by.
Right.
People change, people grow up, things happen, life happens, you change, they change.
Yeah.
And then you realize that there's really no place for any kind of relationship with the people, because the way that you have presented yourself, not in specifically as gender, but in this case gender, doesn't serve any purpose for the life of the person that is living their life.
Yeah, it's
without you.
crazy. Some of the comments here. Carrie had joined us a while back, and Layla Mariah Moreno says, I support Mark 100%. Well, thank you, Layla. And also right here, Emma says, so honest, and I love your courage to share. Yeah, it's important. It's important for people to talk about their traumas, to talk about their experience, to try to make sense of the world we're living in and the situations that we're actually dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Most people just kind of like sweep things under a rug. They don't want to talk about it. That's what most families do. I don't know about your family, but my family never wanted to talk about the elephant in the room, and they just kind of like swooped everything under a rug.
See, the thing is that we became the elephant in the room. It's like, it wasn't Uncle so-and-so or Aunt this.
Yeah.
It was, oh my gosh, it's my own child. They become my own elephant in the room, and I don't want to talk about them.
Yeah. So anyway, there are 15 famous people who picked careers their parents disapproved of. It's like, what arrogance. So you bring to the world a child who has his own mind, his own heart, his own autonomy, but you're not going to agree with the choices that they choose or the choices that they make in life because they don't fit your little expectation. Well, I mean, who do they think they are?
Don't they have every right and every opportunity to make the best of the life that they have instead of trying to, relive the glory days or try to live through their own children? I mean, I saw it happen all the time, like with parents cheering their kids on in, any particular sport, you name it. And they're like always trying to live through that child's experience or something.
That's what it is. They could not do certain things during their life, so they're hoping that you do it for them. So they could like experience
vicariously through you.
And that's really wrong to do, if you ask me. So choosing a career isn't easy, especially when your parents object to your proposed line of work. But sometimes ignoring their advice and following your dreams can land you in the history books, just like these 15 people who follow their passion and made an impact.
We already talked about Katy Perry.
Yeah.
But she was raised in an evangelical Christian-based home. And her music was originally Christian. Right. She came out with a contemporary Christian music album, and it really didn't do very well. They didn't know who they had, obviously.
They didn't. No.
Because she came out with the breakout single, I Kissed a Girl, and I liked it.
All right.
And her parents didn't really like that song.
I'm sure they didn't, because she had not only one parent, but two parents who were pastors. So,
and probably not just pastors. They were like Pentecostal pastors, I believe. Like they spoke in tongues and, laid hands on the sick and slain in the spirit, that whole thing. Katie was raised according to a strict religious code of conduct that prohibited co-ed dances, parties, and many pop culture staples like the movies and magazines. Sounds exactly like my upbringing.
When you and
Absolutely.
For the first time, we had just started and we went to the Valentine's dance. You had never danced before.
No.
And I'm like, what? And you explained to me that you were not allowed to dance.
No.
That was like a big taboo growing up. I mean, moving and dancing and music.
For a Latin, that's breathing.
Yeah. And it's like, it's almost as important as the air you breathe. Because movement and feeling free and being able to express yourself instead of like worrying about, oh, am I going to get caught? Oh, it's like you create an environment that is not conducive to being expressive, to being honest, because you're constantly having to hide.
You are. You can't really be yourself. If you want to express in any way, shape, or form. I remember I told it before. I was in my bedroom and I just had a Michael Jackson song cranked and I was jumping on my bed. Like I think it was Rock With You. And my mom got into my room and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Is the devil on? It's like, is the devil on you, or are you doing something demonic or something like?
Talk about PTSD.
It just freaked me out. I'm like, so what? This is wrong for me to move to this music?
It's crazy. Yeah. So anyway, the parents weren't very happy with her. They totally disagree with her conduct, the way she was conducting herself. But she's made it. She's happy.
Well,
she's living the dream.
Yeah. And then the one about Chris Christopherson, singer-songwriter, one of the original movies with Barbara Streisand back in the day. That was a big remake last year, The Star is Born, with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. And he wrote songs out of pain.
Yeah.
Because the success that his parents wanted for him, having graduated with a master's degree in literature, and he was a Rhodes Scholar who studied at Oxford.
Wasn't a great singer, though.
No,
but he was a good songwriter.
He was good enough to make it into Nashville and write songs for other people. Yeah. And but at a cost. His family threw him away.
And Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale substantially impacted the course of modern nursing and medicine. But if the lady with a lamp had listened to her parents' objections, it wouldn't have been so. Nightingale was born into a wealthy British family living in Florence, Italy in 1820. Her father was a well-to-do landowner, and Florence's mother was an ambitious socialite who expected her daughter to conform to the Victorian standards of marriage and childbearing.
Nightingale expressed her interest in nursing to her parents, going so far as to say that she felt a godly calling into the medical field. In those times, nurses were considered uneducated and even promiscuous, and her parents forbade her from that line of work. But after refusing a marriage proposal, Florence had the gumption to enroll in nursing school at the age of 30.
Wow. Her parents finally conceded when they realized she valued nursing over marriage, and Nightingale's career led her to improve sanitary conditions at hospital, develop better nursing practices, and create educational programs and schools for other nurses. At the age of 30, the parents conceded.
Still involved.
Yeah. Okay.
Edouard Manet, renowned painter Edouard Manet, came from a well-to-do, politically involved family, which could be why his father rejected the idea of a career in art.
Edouard's father, Auguste, hoped his son would climb the ranks with a career in the Navy. And though Edouard attended the French Naval Academy on his father's wishes, he failed the Academy entrance exams twice before moving to Paris, where he dove deep into studying art.
His passion.
And you should always follow your passion. Be creative. Don't listen to anyone else but yourself.
Miles Davis, the famous trumpet jazz artist. Miles Davis created iconic sounds and influenced not only jazz, but other genres of music. But the 9-time Grammy winner may have turned out differently if he had followed his mother's preference of playing the violin instead of the trumpet.
Miles' mother's Cleota thought an interest or career in the stringed instrument would be more socially accepted in a segregated society. Miles' father, meanwhile, hoped his son would become a dentist, but he understood Miles' interest in music and bought him a trumpet.
The Davis family eventually supported Miles' instrument decision and career, but not without a few surprises. In 1958, a year before his masterpiece Kind of Blue was released, Miles said he discovered his mother could play blues piano despite her classical music education.
I didn't know until after I'd gone back there for a visit a few years ago that my mother even knew one note of the piano. But she sat down one day and played some funky blues. Turned out that my grandmother used to teach organ, he said. That's where he got it from. Talent came from his mama.
And here's the story of Christopher McCandless, the guy from Into the Wild. Oh, yes. Also known by his backpacking pseudonym, Alexander Supertramp. Christopher McCandless left behind everything his parents wanted for him in May of 1990. A degree from a prestigious university with the potential for an impressive career.
Christopher's parents were career-driven. His father worked for NASA As an antenna specialist and later, both of his parents launched a consulting company together. It's speculated that the pressure to succeed, along with alleged abuse at the hands of his father, led McCandless to abandon his trust fund, and disappear into the Alaskan wilderness to live off the land alone.
Christopher died from starvation after 100 days living in the woods, but his life story became known through the book and movie Into the Wild.
It's a very good movie, and the reason he died, and it was like a mistake. He ate the wrong berries. He had a book that kind of told him what was poisonous and what was not, and he was so tired. He had walked a lot or something, and it was getting cold, and he had actually missed the opportunity to leave that area.
Yeah.
And he was
The river
stuck.
got
Yeah,
too
too
high.
high, and it led to his demise, unfortunately. But it was a great movie. Highly recommend it. Alfred Nobel, the founder of the Nobel Peace Prize, didn't initially want to be a scientist, and he kept up his passion for his original career choice, literature and poetry.
Alfred's father, Emanuel Nobel, was a Swedish inventor and engineer who hoped his son would follow him in his footsteps. When Emanuel realized Alfred was more interested in writing and reading than science, he sent his son on an educational trip where he learned chemical engineering in 4 countries.
Alfred would go on to create dynamite and hold over 300 patents. But behind closed doors, he continued writing, creating poetry, plays, and novels that were never published, and he ensured the Nobel Prize would honor standout writers.
Helen Archdale, British activist and journalist Helen Archdale, made her mark on history through her involvement in the suffragette movement. Unlike many figures in history, it wasn't Helen's parents that disagreed with her activism, but rather her mother-in-law.
Helen's involvement with the suffragettes ranged from leading organizations to breaking windows with rocks, and she was arrested numerous times.
Her mother-in-law disapproved so heavily of Helen's political efforts that she plotted to kidnap Helen's children, though luckily that plan was foiled.
Wow.
So she was like a women's rights leader when it wasn't popular.
Exactly. And here, close to my heart, Celia Cruz, number 9, a fellow Cuban like myself. Cuban-American singer Celia Cruz sidetracked her father's feelings about singing salsa music to become a Latin music icon. As a teenager, Celia won a radio singing contest in Havana, Cuba, and was encouraged by her mother to attempt a music career.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
But Celia's father pressured her to instead be a teacher. And though she did attend a nearby teacher's college to appease her father, she chose to return to singing. I wanted to be a mother, a teacher, and a housewife.
But when I began to sing with the La Sonora Matancera, I remember that, I thought this is my chance and I'm going to do it. She said in 1985, her father eventually came around. I'd say so. She was like very popular.
The voice
of Cuba, for that much.
Kurt Busiek. Comic book writer Kurt Busiek is known for his work with the Avengers and Marvels, but his childhood infatuation for comic books was something he had to keep secret. As a kid, Kurt's parents thought that comic books rotted the mind, and he was only allowed to read comics that were cherry-picked by his parents.
Essentially one that appeared in newspapers like Dennis the Menace, but by age 14, Busiek had found an interest in popular comic books, namely Daredevil, and began making his own throughout high school. Now he, an award-winning comic book writer with his own series, Astro City, won an award-winning comic book. Wow.
David Brinkley. Veteran broadcast journalist David Brinkley's love for reading helped spur his interest in journalism and storytelling, but it wasn't something his mother encouraged.
During his childhood in the early 20s and 30s, bibliophile Brinkley would read in the evening with help from an electric light. His mother supposedly thought the bulbs attracted mosquitoes, and at times David instead had to read outdoors under street lamps, if at all.
I was essentially a loner who went to the library a lot, Brinkley told People in 1992. Once he gave his disapproving mother a story he had written. After a brief glance, she threw the paper in my face. He said, "Why are you wasting your time on such foolishness?" she said. It was a scar, slow to heal.
How damaging. Well, Edgar Allan Poe. I remember studying about Edgar Allan Poe. While Edgar Allan Poe is now known as literally a literary great, his own father didn't agree with his foray into writing. Poe entered West Point for military education in 1830 as a way to get out of the U.S. Army while beginning his writing career.
At the time, his published poetry was not well received. His foster father, John Allan, had hoped Poe would join his mercantile business, but Poe was determined to make it as a writer.
However, once Poe was expelled from school in 1831, Allan disowned him, citing Poe's gambling and lack of direction as causes. 2 years later, Poe won a writing prize from a Baltimore newspaper, which in turn helped him gain some more recognition and contacts.
Robert Zemeckis. If Robert Zemeckis had listened to his parents, the movie Back to the Future might not have made it to the big screen. Neither would Forrest Gump, which he won an Oscar for.
Robert Blue Collar's family thought his interest in filmmaking was only a phase and didn't look on it too kindly. After applying to USC's film school, Zemeckis, waiting before announcing his decision, his parents' response, "Don't you see where you come from? You can't be a movie director," fueled him to succeed.
Oh, why?
And that's
He used it
as
fuel.
a fuel. Yeah.
Number 14, Lloyd Nolan. San Francisco native Lloyd Nolan started his acting career in Hollywood gangster movies in the 1930s and 40s, but the actor who managed to have a long, successful career in both television and film disappointed his parents by not joining the family shoe manufacturing business.
Everybody wants is like, they wanted me to have the career in restaurant.
Do you remember the movie? The little Mexican kid.
Yeah. I
Remember,
that,
he was supposed to be a shoemaker, and he had aspirations of playing guitar and singing.
Yes. An interview with Nolan's parents in 1933 suggested his busy career didn't bother them too much, but it reeked of guilt. However, all these jobs meant little or nothing to the Nolan family back in San Francisco.
Here they had a prosperous shoe business, and Lloyd could have fitted in so nicely instead of struggling in a profession that was a bad risk both in society and business. This season, however, the Nolans have changed their minds, and their attitude is more sympathetic toward the son in his chosen career.
And Engelbert Humperdinck. I remember him. The 19th century composer Engelbert Humperdinck, not to be confused with the 1960s British pop singer, should have become an architect, or at least that's what his parents thought.
Unable to fully resist his parents' wishes, Humperdinck studied architecture in Germany until he was 25, but he had also continued his music education, which led him to win a number of prestigious awards, including the first Mendelssohn Award, and led him to be a full-time composer.
Now he is best known for his opera Hansel and Gretel, which was first word broadcast live on radio from New York Metropolitan Opera for Christmas 1931.
And those are
your 15 famous people.
Yep.
Parents, I tell you.
You know, it seems like they mean well, but we have to remember that many times our parents come from broken families themselves.
Yes.
They come from stunted growth from experiences with their mothers and their fathers and stuff. And a lot of times we don't get to meet those people, and we don't even know what they went through. I know that my mom went through some certain things as a child growing up that she refuses to share about.
Well, do you have to, I always made excuses for my mom. She had bad thyroid, and My grandmother spoiled her, which we learned yesterday in our show that when you spoil the child, you give the child everything, chances are they're going to become more narcissistic than the average individual, because they think that the world revolves around them. But you would figure that a parent made mistakes and they would learn from those mistakes and they wouldn't do the same thing with their children, that they would
want to correct them.
want to correct those behaviors. And I think that's one of the reasons I never wanted any children, because I don't want to be the kind of parent that my parents were to me. And I know we're supposed to forgive, and you forgive to a certain point, but you can't forget, especially when you try to make amends, especially when you try everything when you're empowered to have some sort of amicability between them, and try to make things work. And when you find that nothing that you could ever do, because nothing I ever did, I kid you not, there was not a single thing that I could ever do that could be right. If I washed the dishes, I didn't clean the sink good enough. If I cleaned my room, it was never clean good enough. Always being put down, and almost like putting me down made her feel better. And to this day, it continues that way. So I cut ties completely.
Well, if you can't achieve their expectations of you,
Mm-hmm.
then they don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody else, but I would say that those are the grounds for very selective ways of loving. You really can't say that you love your child if you're going to put conditions on your love and acceptance of them based on how you want them to live life. Parents go on, parents pass on, many die before we get even to the age that we're at.
Yes.
But their expectations live on. They have these set in stone requirements for how you're supposed to conduct your life. And if you don't conduct your life in the way that's acceptable to them and brings them any kind of satisfaction, then you are making a mistake. And some Christian families will toss out the whole, God thing in your face and say, the Bible says in Exodus, you should honor your mother and your father. It's the first commandment with a promise. And why are you disobeying us? Why are you to be disobedient is to be sinful. And, they make you feel like, you're a failure. And
in this day and age, we're looking at, there are a lot of parents that are very dysfunctional, and they've come from a dysfunctional home themselves, and it's a continual vicious cycle. And there needs to be a point of enough is enough. For those of you that are watching this, whether you're watching it live or will be watching it later, please leave your comments down below. What kind of childhood did you have? And how did you feel about your parents? And how do you feel about your parents now? But I'm sure that there's so many people, lots and lots of people that are dealing with dysfunctional homes, that are dealing with dysfunctional families, and they feel that they have to be guilty, and they feel that they have to hold on and continue to take the abuse. And I say, enough is enough. It's time for you to cut free, cut those wings off, umbilical cord, and live your life, because you are worth living. Your life is worth living, and you are worth feeling good about yourself, feeling happy, not having to live in guilt, not having to live based on their rules. You're not living under the roof anymore.
And it's important because this affects you. This isn't about them. And I know they want you to feel bad, because many of them want you to live your life, but to live it on their terms. And if you do that, and you pretty much just put a damper on your own passions and dreams and your own ways of thinking and all your creativity and everything, and they want to capture you in this image of what they want you to look like and to put you up on their trophy case, that is not the way to live.
No.
That's just going to cause more dis-ease in your body. You're going to be more stressed out. You're going to be completely uncomfortable. You're not going to be able to function normally. And all for what? To please someone else
Right.
that doesn't live in your body?
Right. And it'll affect your relationships. It'll affect your living situation, for the rest of your life if you continue to want to live pleasing your parents. I mean, there are people that are in their late 40s and 50s and continue to still want to please their parents. And it's like, are you for real? You just got to live your life, man.
And that's what happens a lot of times in LGBT, people that, transition later in life, or they come out as gay or lesbian, and I mean, the moment they do such a thing, it just defies all rationality in the minds of family members. And they're like, we didn't see this coming. I can't believe that you're this way. And it's like, well, all those years you felt restricted. All those years you felt held back. All those years you felt like no one was seeing who you really were. And once you free yourself and you're able to do and be you, it's not a pretty thing for them to see. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm trying to find our link here, so those of you that catch this later, or if you're watching live and you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, we normally make videos here, but like we said earlier, there was a problem with YouTube. I'm quite not sure what's going on, but they weren't allowing the live streams. And you had read these articles this morning, and we're trying to do more real talk with the Cummings, more than just once a week, and just bring you more information. So let's see here. That's not what I want.
So yeah, we were just going to give you a link to our channel so that in the future, if you wanted to catch up on other videos that we do or subscribe to our channel, that you could possibly do that.
And this should give me...
But expectations are something that you don't have to live up to anyone else's expectations. You set your own expectations. You set your own goals. You set your own path. And others, they can set theirs.
Exactly.
And that's including your parents. Your parents can set their own expectations. Your brothers or sisters, they can set their own expectations without need to get involved in your life and to tell you how you should be.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button. We're trying to do at least 4 or 5 shows a week now, with topics, health, spiritual, a lot of self-help, which I find that's very important this day and age, especially if you are part of the LGBT, because, there's a lot of PTSD involved, and you think that it shouldn't be that way. It's 2019. You figured that everybody would be okay with it. It's this day and age, but, there's still a lot of work to be done. We've been a byproduct of shame, and we've felt shame from being who we are, and have gone back and forth because of the shame felt. So it's time to talk about it. It's time to feel empowered and break free from the old programming and be yourself. Know how important you are. So if you like this kind of stuff, please visit our channel, subscribe, hit the notification button. We also have a Patreon account if you guys so wish to support our creativity for Real Talk with the Cummings. You can become a Patreon. We also do a lot of consultation with health and fitness, and put plans together for individuals. I do one-on-one consultations, meal plan, and workout plans. So if you head on over to Patreon and join, I'll be more than happy to assist you with your fitness and health needs.
Emma Starr writes, I cut ties with my biological family a few years ago, and now I've had a drama-free, stress-free life from them. Cutting toxic, Cutting toxic biological family is perfectly healthy. I also had to endure 14 years of Christianity with my ex-husband, and it was traumatizing, which is why I relate to you both so much. So thank you for you both. You're comforting to listen to.
Well, very welcome. And it's really interesting here. Somebody by the name of Nancy Lee Neal left an angry emoji.
Oh
Wow,
wow.
angry emoji. Nancy, if you like to share your reason for your angry emoji, this is one of the things that really kind of, you know, disturbs me a little bit about um, these little emojis, likes or dislikes and stuff like that. People don't have to be accountable for why they do what they do. You know, it's like, okay, you're angry. Well, give us the reason for your anger. What is so
Are you angry
upsetting
because
to
we
you?
exist? Are you angry because we're talking? Are you angry because we're talking about the truth
Yeah.
about cutting family ties? I mean, why are you angry? And then if you're going to anonymously
Well,
just leave an angry emoji, what is your purpose?
at least Facebook makes, you know, if you leave an emoji, you can tell who it is. Because YouTube, just you could hit the dislike, and YouTube needs to, like, you know, be able to change that. That's a problem with the world we're living in today, that people don't want to take responsibility for their words, their actions, and they hide behind a keyboard, you know, and don't like to discuss things. They want to keep everything under a rug. They sweep things under a rug all the time.
And Christianity is really good at sweeping things under a rug.
Very much so, yes, very much so. So I think that's about it for tonight. Again, guys, head on over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and there's a notification bell there. And if you hit the notification bell and select all, every time we make a video, you will be notified. And yeah, and you can chat, you know, or call in. We usually have a call-in number, and people, you know, chat and say things and ask questions and so forth and so on. It's important. It's important to communicate. That's what it's all about.
Well, it's important to be able to share, you know, and to have a sense of community.
Yeah.
Where there's an exchange of ideas, even if we disagree with each other. You know, that we can actually be cordial with each other and amicable with each other, and to be able to, you know, agree to disagree. I mean, I think one of the things that people have forgotten to do is to be able to have the ability to agree to disagree.
Yeah, and if people don't think the same way, people become very upset because everyone wants you to be their drone, you know, and we all have our own mind and we all have our own way of feeling and thinking, and we should be able to do so. But a lot of people don't have the capacity or coping skills to be able to accept that.
Kelly Marissi Stump says, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you, Kelly. Hope all is well.
Yes.
All right. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching, and thanks for catching us live here on this last second, you know, decision to go live on Facebook. We were really, you know, trying to get a way to get our message out tonight, and YouTube wasn't playing along.
Yeah.
So
YouTube was not doing what YouTube is supposed to do, which is allow you to live stream. I can't wait to hear what's going on, because even through StreamYard, we thought originally it was StreamYard who had the problem, but it wasn't StreamYard, it was YouTube.
Well, I see others actually did make their shows go live, so I don't.
It's probably working now?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I saw some other YouTuber actually went live and was doing the show.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't settle for anything less. You are important. Realize that your life matters. We love you guys. But remember to always love yourselves too. Good night and have a good one. Remember to sleep 8 hours.
8 hours.